Hello everyone, my name is Jerica Lee, a member of Group 10, and today we are going to discuss the integration of metabolism and metabolism in starvation. And to start, we have Althea Joyce Cantos to have our introduction. Hi!
So ayan, ang una nating agenda ay yung introduction ng integration of metabolism. So, sabi dyan ay ito yung pangunahing pinagkukunan ng mga nutrisyon at enerhiya ng katawan. Sumunod ay yung sabay-sabay ito silang ginagamit din ng ating katawan. Tapos kung kulang ng isa, pwede gamitin ng katawan yung iba pa para bumawi at makapag-process ulit. So ito, ang sunod naman ay yung, meron pa rin part ang introduction. Ang sumunod naman ay may dalawang daw proseso ang katawan. Ang una ay anabolic at saka catabolic. Tapos doon muna tayo kung anong meaning ng anabolic. Ang anabolic is yung building. Ito yung pagbuo ng mga bahagi ng katawan gaya ng mga muscles or cells. Sumunod naman ay yung catabolic. Ito naman ay yung nagbe-breakdown. Ito yung nagsisira para sa gawing energy. Then, ang sabi din, ito ay magkakaugnay ang mga proseso para tuloy-tuloy ang paggawa ng energy para sa mga kailangan nating katawan. So, ayun, dako naman tayo sa two levels ng integration of metabolism. Ang una ay cellular level. Ito, cellular level daw ay nangyayari sa loob ng mga individual cells. Sumunod naman na level ay organ or tissue level. Ito naman ay kung paano naman tutulungan ang mga bahagi ng katawan, gaya ng mga liver, muscles, at mga brain. So ayan, dako muna tayo sa integration of metabolism at cellular level. Ang cell doon ay can turn carbs into fats and vice versa. Sumunod naman ay yung carbs into proteins, then vice versa. Proteins into fats and vice versa. Then glucose, fatty acid, glycerol, and amino acid interact in many ways inside the cells. So, una muna tayo ay sa carbohydrates, fats. Then, when you eat carbs, like a rice or bread, they break down into the glucose. Yung glucose become to pyruvate, then acetyl-CoA. Then, acetyl-CoA is used to make fatty acids. These fatty acids plus glycerol also from glucose equals triglycerol or fats. Then, so carbs can easily be stored as a fats. Sumunod naman ay yung fats to carbohydrates. Fats break down into glycerol and fatty acids. Glycerol is yung can become glucose. But fatty acids is meron siyang puro lang siya sa mga even number. Yung fatty acid to acetyl-CoA cannot make glucose. Parang hindi na siya dadaan sa glucose. Then only mga odd number. Then fatty acids. Propynyl-CoA to cyclyl-CoA to glucose, but rare case naman ito. So, doon naman tayo sa carbohydrates to proteins. Carbohydrates to proteins, then pagkababa ay glucose enters the citric acid cell. Iyon yung bilog doon sa baba, producing material using to make non-essential amino acid or parts of proteins. So, carbs can help make proteins. Next naman tayo ay proteins to carbohydrates. Some amino acid are glucogenic. Then, they turn into citric acid cycle. Yun yung cycle na ginagamit yung bilog. Intermediates like oxaloacetate or pyruvate, then into glucose. So, yung proteins naman dito ay some types can become a sugar. So, next is proteins to fats. Yung proteins to fats naman, some amino acid become pyruvate or acetyl-CoA, which can turn into fatty fats. Then yung ano naman, possible but not major energy pathways. Then next naman is yung fats to proteins. Yung fats naman cannot become amino acid but not passive.
After Thea discussed the integration of metabolism in cellular level, now let's discuss the integration of metabolism at tissue or organ level. Dito, alamin naman natin ano yung interrelationship ng bawat organ sa ating katawan, ano ba yung role nila para magkaroon ng magandang metabolism, magandang takbo ng metabolism sa ating katawan. So, isa-isahin natin yung major organs na kailangan, which is the liver, the brain, the heart muscle, the skeletal muscle, and the adipose tissue. First, we have the role of liver. So, ano ba yung role ng liver? Role of liver is mag-maintain siya ng blood glucose level. So, na-discuss ng other group yung glucose, na-define siya as simplest form of sugar, na yung sugar na yun is siya yung major source ng energy ng ating body cells. So, meron tayong sa metabolism, meron tayong fed state, meron tayong fasting state at starvation. Yung fed state, siya yung after natin kumain. Yung fasting state naman, ito yung hindi naman tayo kumakain. And yung starvation state, ito yung kagutuman state na. So, during fed state, yung liver natin is take up siya ng excess glucose and na-restore to as glycogen and kino-convert yung iba into fatty acids. And yung glycogen na yun and yung fatty acids is siya naman yung nagagamit natin during fasting state. And dito sa liver, may tinatawag tayong glycogenolysis and gluconeogenesis. Yung glycogenolysis, ito yung pag-breakdown ng glucose. While ang gluconeogenesis naman, ito yung pag-synthesize ng new glucose in non-carbohydrate process. Also, yung liver is nagsaserve siya as a major site ng fatty acid synthesis and ketone body synthesis. So, bakit kaya? So, maaaring kaya doon nangyayari ang synthesis kasi yung liver natin, siya yung nag-a-accept ng mga nutrients na ini-intake natin sa food na ini-intake natin. So, yung ketone bodies naman, as other group discussed, ang ketone bodies is the other source of energy or alternative source of energy kapag kinukulang ng glucose, ng supply ng glucose sa ating organs. Next is the role of skeletal muscle. So, yung skeletal muscle natin is nagme-maintain naman siya ng large storage ng glycogen. So, kailangan yung glycogen, malaki yung storage niya kasi nga ang glycogen is energy storage. Malaki siya or madami dapat siya kasi ang katawan natin nag-exert ng effort in everyday life. So, during exercise, doing physical activity, and kapag vigorous activities yung ginagawa natin, nag-exert talaga tayo ng more energy. Kumbaga, nakukonsume natin yung madaming energy sa katawan natin. So, kung kakunti yung ma-store ng glycogen ng ating muscle, magiging lambutin or kinakapoy tayo or tinatamad tayo ng ilaw. Thus, during starvation naman, yung free fatty acids and ketone bodies is nag-burn siya or nagagamit na siya sa liver instead na gamitin yung glucose. Kasi, mayroon tayong mga body organs na wala silang energy storage na kailangan masusuplayan siya consistently ng ibang body organs. And then, yung kapag naman kinukulang na ng energy source mula sa ketone bodies at saka sa glucose is pwedeng magamit ng ating katawan yung muscle protein kung walang-wala na talaga. And then, yung ating skeletal muscle, kapag siya ay nag-breakdown ng glucose, magpo-provide na ng energy and magpo-produce ito ng pyruvate. Yung pyruvate na yon is a product nga ng glycolysis or yung pagbe-breakdown ng glucose. And yung pyruvate na yon is mako-convert siya into lactate or alanine, which is yung lactate or alanine na yon is siya yung matatransfer naman ng ating skeletal muscle pabalik sa ating liver para mag-regenerate siya ng bagong glucose na maisusupply na para magkaroon ng sustainability sa supply ng nutrients sa other organs. Next is the role of adipose tissue. So, yung adipose tissue naman, ang primary function niya is mag-store naman ng metabolic fuel in a form of triacetylglycerols. Yung triacetylglycerols is na-discuss din siya ng other group. And sinasabi doon na ang triacetylglycerol is siya ay isang kind ng lipids na energy storage din siya. And sinasabi na mas efficient ito dahil ang triacetylglycerol is mas kumbaga, kaya niyang mag-pack ng madaming energy in a small volume. And during fed state, ang role ng adipose tissue is mag-synthesis ng triacetylglycerol from glucose and fatty acids. And during fasting state naman, yung triacetylglycerol na yun, from glucose and fatty acids, is mako-convert na siya into glycerol and fatty acids na siya naman na ipapasa ng adipose tissue sa other organs of the body. Next is the role of heart muscle. So, yung heart muscle natin, ito yun na yung sinasabi ko na hindi sila nag-i-store ng energy. Wala silang energy reserve or fuel reserve. And kailangan continuously nasusuplayan sila ng energy ng ating liver and ng adipose tissue. Kasi kung hindi ito masusuplayan, ay magkakaroon ng malfunction ng ating metabolism. Ganun din yung ating brain. So, yung brain natin, ang primary source niya naman, or exclusive fuel niya, is glucose. Pero during starvation, nag-a-adapt siya ng ketone bodies as an energy source. Yung ketone bodies nga is alternative source of energy ng ating katawan. And yung brain, hindi din siya nagko-contain ng, or hindi din siya nag-i-store, or wala siyang energy reserves. And kailangan nasusuplayan din siya consistently and continuously ng ating liver. So yung brain yung brain natin at heart muscle, nagre-receive lang sila ng nutrients, nagre-receive lang sila ng biomolecules para mag-work. Kung hindi sila masusuplayan ng enough energy na kailangan nila, magkakaroon ng problema ang metabolism ng ating katawan. Next is the significance of integration of metabolism. So, integration of metabolism ensures a supply of suitable fuel for all tissues at all times from fully fed state to a totally starved state. So, dito, parang nakita natin yung cycle, paano ba napapasa yung biomolecules na kailangan ng bawat organs mula sa liver, and kung ano ba yung kailangan na masustain para mag-work pa din yung ibang organs. So, meron din tayong tinatawag na positive caloric balance and negative caloric balance, which is dun sa positive caloric balance, in a fed well state, yung significant proportion of a food energy intake is na-store siya either glycogen or fat. And sa negative caloric balance naman is in starvation, yung fatty acids is na-oxidize in preference to glucose, para mas spare yung glucose or maging extra na lang yung glucose for other tissues that require it under all conditions. Gaya ng brain and heart, wala silang energy storage, so kailangan may extra glucose tayo para ma-supply sa kanila. Hindi pwedeng, kumbaga hindi pwedeng yung glucose lang ang palaging masusupply. Kaya gumagamit tayo ng iba pang energy source. Lastly, papakita ko naman sa inyo ngayon yung integration of metabolism among major tissues of the body. Ito yung diagram. Makikita natin dito na yung liver is the central organ. Yung liver na yon is sinasabi na siya yung central hub ng metabolism. Kasi nga, yung liver yung unang nag-a-accept ng nutrients na natatanggap natin galing sa food that we intake. And then yung liver, magpapasa siya ng glucose, fatty acid, ketone bodies sa ating heart and sa ating muscle. And ang tinatransfer niya naman sa brain is glucose and ketone bodies. While sa adipose tissue, nagtatransfer ang liver ng glucose and glycerols, also fatty acids. While yung adipose tissue natin is pinapasahan siya ng liver ng fatty acids, then nagbabalik din ang adipose tissue natin ng fatty acids sa ating liver. And also, yung adipose tissue natin, nagpapasa din siya ng fatty acids sa ating muscles and heart. And yung muscle naman natin, ito yung sinasabi ko kanina, na nag-transfer siya ng alanine and lactate sa ating liver para mag-regenerate ng bagong glucose, para masustain yung production ng energy na kailangan ng katawan. And yung makikita natin na wala ding arrows na nakaturo sa heart at saka sa brain, wala din silang sinusuplayan, kundi sila lang yung sinusuplayan ng iba't ibang body organs. That's all. Thank you.
So now, i-discuss naman natin yung metabolism in starvation. So ano nga ba yung starvation? Ito yung state ng katawan natin na kapag nagkakaroon tayo ng lack of food intake over time, which is nagkakos siya ng shortage ng calories or yung energy ng katawan natin from external sources. External sources meaning siya yung mga hindi nasisynthesize ng katawan natin. And it is important to take note din na yung starvation is hindi lang siya dahil sa wala tayong makain kasi wala tayong pera, ganon. But then, pwede rin yung mga experiences natin such as yung trauma, surgery, infections na nagpe-prevent sa atin para mag-intake ng food due to medical reasons. And in this state, since hindi nga tayo nag-take ng calories from the outside sources, yung katawan naman natin is nag-start na siya mag-rely sa internal fuel reserves para ma-meet yung mga energy na kailangan ng katawan natin. And especially para mag-function ng maayos yung mga organs ng katawan natin. But before natin i-discuss yan, ano nga ba yung fuel reserve? Yung fuel refers to the nutrients that are broken down to release energy. And para mas madali, example is yung car. Yung car ay parang katawan natin na kailangan ng fuel or gasoline para tumakbo. And our body needs this fuel para makapag-produce ng energy so it can function properly. So, yung fuel reserves are the stored energy sa katawan natin that can help us tap into when we are not eating. Like, kunyari, nagpa-fasting tayo or this starvation. And think of them as your body's energy savings account. Na kapag hindi available yung food, yung katawan natin is kailangan niyang mag-withdraw from this account to keep everything running. At sinasabi na may tatlong types daw ito, which is yung glycogen, fat, and protein na madidiscuss pa din natin further. And moving on, sino nga ba yung tinatawag nating normal healthy person? Siya yung well-nourished 70 kg man na someone na kumakain siya regularly at walang nutritional deficiency or major health issues. This person's body is nag-i-store siya ng energy in different forms to be used kapag hindi nga available yung food. So, ayun. Nandito yung tatlo, as we can see, is, ayan, the glycogen, which is dapat 1,600 kcal. So, ano nga ba yung glycogen? Ito yung stored form ng glucose, mainly nakikita natin sa mga livers, muscles, gano'n. And then, yung role nito is, siya yung first energy source ng katawan natin kapag hindi tayo nag-intake ng food. And ginagamit siya for blood glucose level, especially sa utak natin at sa ating red blood cells. 7 is the mobilizable protein, which is dapat 2,400 kcal siya. So, ano nga ba yung mobilizable protein na yon? Ito yung muscle proteins at other tissue proteins na parang yung binibreakdown siya ng katawan natin to release amino acid. And then, ang role niya is ginagamit siya for gluconeogenesis or yung making glucose sa liver natin. And ginagamit din siya para mag-supply ng glucose to essential organs kapag wala yung glycogen. And then next is the triacylglycerols or yung fat natin na kinakailangan is 135,000 kcal siya. So ano nga ba to? Ito yung main energy source ng katawan natin na nakikita sa adipose tissue. And ang role nito is mag-provide siya ng fatty acid for energy and glycerol for glucose production. And then ginagamit din siya as fuel para sa muscles at liver natin. And then, so, ano nga ba yung kcal? Kasi baka mamaya kcal tayo ng kcals, hindi naman natin alam. So, it stands for the kilocalorie, also known simply as the calorie with a capital C in nutrition. So, ano nga ba yung mini-measure nito? Mini-measure nito yung energy, specifically, yung amount ng energy na parang nakukuha ng body natin from the food na ginagamit natin para mag-function tayo. Or yung sa mga everyday na ginagawa natin, such as yung walking, eating, thinking, or kahit kapag pati natutulog tayo. So kahit ano man yung ginagawa natin, nagre-rest man tayo or gumagawa man tayo ng mga big activities, kailangan ng katawan natin syempre ng calories or yung energy for us to function. And sinasabi rin na 24 hours period ang need ng katawan natin, ay 1,600 kcal in the basal state or yung resting state nga natin, and ito yung pinaka-minimum energy na kailangan ng katawan natin to stay alive kapag completely at rest tayo. Nagsusupport siya sa breathing, heartbeat, at other automatic function pa ng ating mga internal organs. While with the activities naman, such as yung mga physical activities, ang energy na need ng katawan natin is nag-i-increase siya up to 6,000 kcal. Depende na syempre sa extent ng activity na ginagawa natin. So bakit nga ba ito mahalaga? If we eat fewer kcal than sa ginagamit natin, yung katawan natin ay ginagamit yung mga fuel reserves natin. So, nagkakos ito ng weight loss or yung potential starvation kapag mas pinatagal pa. And kapag naman kumain tayo ng more than the kcal na ginagamit natin, the extra energy is na-i-store naman siya as fat, and then nagkakaroon tayo ng weight gain. So moving on, we have this what we call the phases of starvation. The first one is the short-term starvation, which is nagko-cover siya ng 12-hour overnight fast and can extend into 24 hours. Like for example, yung pag-skip natin ng breakfast or lunch. And then yung long-term starvation naman is nagla-last longer siya than 24 hours. At maaari din siyang mag-extend to several days pa or weeks. Like for example, yung mga nagpa-fasting tayo for several days. But first, magpo-focus muna tayo sa short-term starvation. First, we have the changes in carbohydrate metabolism and role naman ng liver. Ang first phase ng starvation is nagsisimula siya 4 to 5 hours after natin kumain. So, ano nga ba yung nangyayari at bakit ito nangyayari? So, di ba, kumakain tayo. And yung carbohydrates is nadadigest siya, and once na ma-digest na siya, yung glucose is nag-enter na siya sa blood natin. And once na mag-enter na siya sa blood natin, yung pancreas naman natin is magre-release siya ng insulin. So, para saan nga ba yung insulin na yon? Ito yung nagpupush sa glucose sa ating mga muscles, livers, and fat cells. And tumutulong siya sa katawan natin para mag-store pa ng energy as glycogen and fat. And right after eating, yung katawan naman natin is nasa energy storage mode na. So, ayun. And 1 hour later, yung katawan natin or yung blood glucose natin is magsisimula na siyang mag-fall. Dahil nga yung glucose is being used up na ng ating katawan for energy, yung blood glucose level natin is nagde-decrease na siya. And nasisend siya ng pancreas natin na nagde-decrease na yung glucose, and this reduce the insulin. Yung pancreas, nire-reduce niya yung production ng insulin. Di ba nga, nagamit na yung glucose ng katawan natin, so bumababa na yung glucose level natin, and kapag nag-start na siya mag-fall, hindi na kailangan ng insulin at high levels. So, nire-reduce na ng pancreas yung production ng insulin. Di ba nga, ang ginagawa ng insulin is para i-store niya yung energy, and since wala namang glucose, so wala na siyang gagawin. At kapag wala nang gagawin, anong gagawin natin? Uuwi na. So, ang gagawin ng insulin, marireduce na nga yung insulin, wala na siyang gagawin. So, bakit nga ba mahalaga ang pagkakaroon ng reduction nitong insulin? First, is kapag yung insulin is nag-stay high lamang, yung katawan natin is mag-i-store siya at mag-i-store lang ng energy. Instead na magamit na ng katawan natin yung energy at mape-prevent nito yung pag-release ng stored fuel na na-store na nga ng ating insulin and yung mga yung mga fuel resources. And di ba nga, para mas madali is kagaya siya ng phone na i-charge natin. Wherein yung charger, siya yung nagsisilbing insulin na magsasend siya ng energy into our phones to store it sa battery ng cellphone natin. Na kapag nag-reach na ng 100% yung battery natin is kailangan na siyang i-unplug or alisin yung saksak kasi pag ikinip natin siya as nakasaksak, maaaring mag-overheat yung phone natin or mahaharm yung battery natin. So kapag inalis na natin yung saksak, is maaari na natin magamit yung stored energy or yung battery charge ng phone natin just like the stored energy sa loob ng katawan natin. So after the 1-hour process, we are now on the start of the starvation phase na nga, which is yung early fasting state na nagde-decline na dito yung insulin level, just like what I said kanina na nag-i-stop na ang pag-i-store ng energy. So pumapasok naman dito yung glucagon. Yung glucagon is nag-e-increase siya wherein it tells our liver para mag-release ka na ng glucose. And then the epinephrine level naman is nag-rise na rin. At yung epinephrine na yun is siya yung nag-help para ma-free up na yung mga nakastore na fat for energy sa katawan natin. Ayan, sa slide na yan is nakikita natin yung brain, erythrocytes, yung bone marrow, at renal medulla, at peripheral nerves. Ayan, sila yung mga nangangailangan ng glucose for their energy needs. And in order for them to function, yun nga, in order for them to function, kailangan nila ng energy. And samantalang, meron din naman tayong mga hindi nagre-rely sa glucose, but yung mga tissues, such as yung muscle, is parang they can readily use our free fatty acid naman na inire-release ng adipose tissue natin. And it is important to take note na ang priority ng metabolism in starvation is para makapag-provide tayo ng sufficient glucose sa brain natin at other tissues na nakadepende sa glucose para mag-function for us to stay alive kahit hindi naman tayo kumakain. And also in this phase naman is, since hindi nga tayo kumakain, yung blood glucose level natin is nag-i-start na siyang bumaba. And as it falls, yung katawan natin is humahanap na siya ng way para makip yung pagsusupply ng glucose sa kanya. Especially para sa utak natin na almost entirely, yung brain natin is nakarely talaga siya sa glucose for its energy. And ayan, ang main source nga ng glucose is the liver glycogen, where the stored glucose in here is tinatawag nating glycogen from the name itself. And in this part, may dalawang process na nag-o-occur dito sa liver. First is the glycogenolysis or yung pag-breakdown ng glycogen. And then, the gluconeogenesis para ma-maintain yung blood glucose level at mag-provide siya ng sufficient glucose sa ating brain at other tissues. And to further understand, di ba, as I said earlier na nga, as our blood glucose is nagde-decrease, yung insulin natin is nagde-decrease rin kasi wala na siyang gagawin. And at the same time, yung glucagon natin is nag-e-increase. So, para saan nga ba yung glucagon? Kasi baka mamaya glucagon ako ng glucagon, hindi nyo na pala naiintindihan. And then, it is siya yung nag-activate ng cyclic AMP wherein it is a messenger molecule that activate enzymes in the liver na nagbe-breakdown ng glycogen. Also, itong glucagon, siya yung nagtetel sa liver natin na para i-breakdown mo na yung glycogen in the process of glycogenolysis. And eventually, it starts making new glucose through the process of gluconeogenesis na kagaya ng sinabi ko kanina. So, feel ko medyo naguguluhan kayo dun sa dalawang process na to. So, first, i-discuss natin is yung glycogenolysis, which is siya yung nag-breakdown ng glycogen na nakastore sa liver. And once na ma-breakdown na yung glycogen na yun, magiging glucose na siya. And then this glucose is mare-release na siya sa bloodstream natin. And then, when the glycogen store is depleted na nga, yung gluconeogenesis naman ang nagte-take over. So, ito yung process ng pag-produce ng glucose from non-carbohydrate sources, gaya na nga ng amino acid, lactate, and glycerol. In essence, this glycogenolysis is nagpo-provide siya ng rapid source of glucose from stored reserves. While this gluconeogenesis naman, siya ay nagpo-provide naman ng more sustained supply from the non-carbohydrate sources. And pareha silang nag-work in order to maintain the stable blood glucose level, especially during the period na meron tayong low glucose availability. So the question is, how long does liver glycogen last? Kaya ng liver glycogen natin na ma-maintain yung normal blood glucose level for about 8 to 12 hours. And yun, 8 to 12 hours siya after ng last meal natin. And after that, yung body natin is mag-i-start na siyang mag-rely more sa gluconeogenesis. So, punta naman tayo dun sa sources of substrate or yung mga raw materials na kinakailangan para mag-make ng glucose in gluconeogenesis. First is the pyruvate, which is ito yung key product from glucose breakdown or yung glycolysis. And then next is the lactate, which is siya yung pinoproduce ng ating red blood cells and muscles when they work throughout enough without oxygen. And then next is the glucogenic amino acid, which is this come from the breakdown of muscle ng proteins naman. And then its major ones are the alanine and glutamine. Next is the glycerol, which comes from the breakdown of the triacylglycerols, which is ito yung mga fat stores in the body. This is our fat energy being turned into glucose. Moving on to the next, which is the changes in protein metabolism and role of the muscles naman. In here is madi-discuss how our body uses muscle protein to help make glucose when it doesn't have enough food during starvation. As I've discussed nga kanina yung insulin natin is siya yung nag-help to take in glucose and use it for energy. Na kapag yung insulin is nagda-drop during fasting, the equilibrium natin is siya yung nagra-rise. And then yung muscles naman natin is mag-i-stop na siya sa paggamit ng glucose. Instead, yung mga fatty acids from the fat stores, siya naman yung magiging fuel for our muscles. Na kung kanina sa glycogen, ang ginagamit is kung kanina sa liver, ang ginagamit is the glycogen, dito naman is the fatty acids. And dahil nga yung glucose is saved na siya for important organs kagaya ng utak natin. So ano nga ba yung nangyayari? Dahil nga wala nang food na pumapasok sa katawan natin, kailangan na ng new source of energy. So yung muscles natin is binibreak down niya yung mga muscles natin or muscle protein natin into amino acid. And then yung amino acid nga, di ba, siya yung building blocks of protein. So, kapag na-break down yung proteins, amino acid na yung mangyayari. And then, tinatawag yung process na ito na proteolytic degradation. So, ang increase ng proteolytic activity nito is nag-o-occur siya dahil sa decrease ng concentration ng insulin. And yung protein in form of amino acid na product ng proteolytic degradation naman is siya na ngayon yung bida dito. Siya na yung main precursor ng gluconeogenesis. So yung mga amino acid na bida dito dahil sila yung pinaka-importante as of the moment is the alanine and the glutamine. Dahil they are the two key amino acid na ginagamit to make glucose from muscle. These are especially important during the short-term starvation kapag yung katawan natin still has the muscle to break down for fuel. And lastly, for my part, is the changes in the fat metabolism and role of the adipose tissue. When the epinephrine levels start to increase due to fasting, starvation, ganon, it stimulates the breakdown of triacylglycerol or the fat in adipose tissue. By the way, yung adipose tissue is a type of connective tissue na binubuo siya ng mga fat cells na tinatawag nating adipocytes, which is na-discuss naman din sa previous group. So, this process is nagre-release siya ng free fatty acid at glycerol. So, paano nga ba siya ginagamit ng katawan natin? First is the fatty acid, which is ginagamit siya as an energy source, especially ng ating skeletal muscle. And because muscle use fat for energy, nakakapag-save naman yung body natin ng glucose para sa mas important pa na organs, kagaya na nga ng brain natin, which needs it the most. the other hand naman, which goes to our liver, yung liver natin turns this glycerol into new glucose through the process of this gluconeogenesis. Minamaintain nito yung blood glucose natin na stable kahit hindi tayo nag-intake ng food. And all in all, lahat ng na-discuss ko ay essential kasi they serve as a backup energy system para sa katawan natin na kahit hindi tayo kumakain or our body still works by using those. So, ayun, thank you.
Tapos na yung metabolic changes during short term, i-discuss ko naman yung metabolic changes occur during prolonged starvation. The processes which takes place in short-term starvation cannot go indefinitely. Di ba considered lang na prolonged starvation siya kung more than 24 hours na. Although gluconeogenesis provides glucose efficiently for the body's energy requirements, it will soon deplete a substantial proportion of body protein, and it is known that that results when 30 to 50% of the body protein is lost. Yung gluconeogenesis ay isang mechanism where yung body natin ay nagpo-produce ng glucose. Sabi nga nung dalawang group kanina, from non-carbohydrate sources, primarily yung mga amino acid na galing sa protein. Yung process nga na yun ay effective siya sa pag-energize ng body. Kaso delikado siya kasi nga nababawasan yung protein at kapag nag-loss tayo ng 30 to 50% ng protein, maglilid siya sa blood natin. Para nga maiwasan agad yon, adjustments to metabolism are made after 24 to 48 hours where conserve body protein. Thus, the second priority of metabolism in starvation is to preserve protein. This is accomplished by using fatty acids and ketone bodies in place of glucose as a fuel. Sa madaling sabi, di ba, yung glucose yung source natin ng energy. Kaso, para makapag-preserve tayo ng protein, yung body natin during prolonged starvation, gagawin mo ng alternative yung fatty acids and ketone bodies para makakuha ng energy. So, ano nga ba yung changes na nangyayari sa carbohydrate metabolism during pa rin na prolonged starvation? The blood glucose level dropped from about 100 mgdl to 20 mgdl after 24 hours, but thereafter maintained. Dito sa figure nga, nakikita natin yung concentration of fuels in blood. Sa pagtagal ng araw ng starvation, nagda-drop yung blood glucose. Tapos, nag-increase yung ketone bodies at slight increase lang yung sa fatty acid. Conservation of body proteins is accomplished by a reduction in glucose production by gluconeogenesis. So, after ng changes sa carbohydrate metabolism, yung sa changes naman sa fat metabolism. During prolonged fasting kasi, yung adipose tissue ay nag-continue pa rin to break down its triacylglycerol store to fatty acids and glycerol. Yung fatty acids yung nagsaserve as the major source of fuel for the body para makasurvive yung tao. Dahil dito, tuloy-tuloy yung pag-breakdown ng triacylglycerols para maging fatty acids at glycerol. Ginagamit siya sa muscles at iba pang tissue for energy. Yung iba namang fatty acids na pupunta sa liver, kung saan pino-convert sila into ketone bodies. At yung glycerol naman, ginagawang glucose ng liver para mag-supply pa rin ng sugar para sa mga parts ng body na kailangan talaga ng glucose, gaya ng brain natin. The glycerol is converted to glucose while fatty acid are oxidized to CO2 and H2O by muscle and in the liver where they are converted into ketone bodies. The synthesis of ketone bodies from acetyl-CoA increases markedly, producing the state of ketosis. As the citric acid cycle is unable to oxidize all of the acetyl-CoA generated by the degradation of fatty acids, they are converted to ketone bodies. Ngayon, habang lumalakas yung pag-breakdown ng fats, dumadami rin yung acetyl-CoA sa liver natin. Pero dahil nauubos yung oxaloacetate, which is yung kailangan para tumakbo ng maayos ang citric acid cycle, na hindi na ma-process ng acetyl-CoA, ang ending, kino-convert na lang ng liver natin yung into ketone bodies, kaya nagkakaroon ng ketosis. Yung gluconeogenesis, ginagamit din siya for oxaloacetate kaya lalong nababawasan ito. Kaya in response, maraming ketone bodies ang pinoproduce ng liver para maging alternative fuel, lalo na para sa brain natin. Yun nga, mitosis ay isang metabolic adaptation to starvation arises as a result of deficiency in available carbohydrate. As the supply of ketone bodies increases and the supply of glucose diminishes, the brain reduces its utilization of glucose and begin to consume appreciable amounts of ketone bodies in place of glucose. Although the brain still has residual glucose requirement not only for provision of energy but also for synthesis of neurotransmitters. So ayun, habang tumatagal yung fasting, tumataas yung ketone bodies at bumababa yung glucose kaya nagsisimula gumamit ang brain natin ng ketone bodies bilang fuel. Mas kaunti na ang glucose na magagamit pero kailangan pa rin ang brain natin para sa energy at for creation ng neurotransmitter.
After nga ng ilang weeks ng starvation, ketone bodies become the major fuel of the brain, which diminishes the need for glucose. Therefore, in prolonged starvation, less muscle is degraded than in the first day of starvation. This sequence of events leads to at least partial preservation of the protein stores of the body. Yun nga, para sa explanation nun, after ng ilang weeks, yung ketone bodies na yung magiging main fuel ng brain natin. Kaya mas kaunting muscle protein yung nade-degrade. Sa ganitong way, naproprotect natin yung protein stores ng body natin kaya kahit na prolong yung starvation.
After nga sa changes ng fat, doon naman tayo sa changes in protein metabolism. During the first days of starvation, there is a rapid breakdown of muscle protein, providing amino acids, alanine, and glutamine for gluconeogenesis. After several weeks of starvation, bumabagal na yung muscle breakdown dahil mas kaunti na yung glucose na kailangan ng brain. Kasi nga, gumagamit na siya ng ketone bodies. Dahil sa adjustments, ang tagal ng survival ng isang adult in starvation ay nakadepende sa laki ng fat stores or triacylglycerol depot. Pero kapag naubos na yung fat, body naman natin ay mag-start kumuha ng energy sa muscle protein na siyang pinakamalaking energy source. At that time, yung protein stores once again enter a stage of rapid depletion as proteins also essential for the maintenance of cellular function. Yun nga, then ay nagre-result kapag yung protein natin ay nabawasan sa kalahati. Yun nga, kapag nakaabot na sa point na almost half na lang ang protein sa body natin, nagkakaroon ng matinding protein loss na mag-lead. Dahil ang protein natin ay kailangan para sa normal na function ng cell. During the conversion of amino acid to glucose by gluconeogenesis, the nitrogen of the amino acid is converted to urea, and so production of urea decreases during prolonged starvation compared nga sa production sa short-term starvation. Dito nga sa figure, makikita natin ulit, sa pagtagal ng starvation, mas umuunti yung urea excretion. So ano nga ba ang effect na lahat ng yun sa BMR or yung sa basal metabolic rate? Sa prolonged starvation kasi, tumataas ang glucagon at bumababa yung insulin na nabanggit nga kanina at pati na yung thyroxine or yung T3 which is yung hormone na nakaka-apekto sa metabolism natin. Dahil dito bumababa yung BMR, yung ulit yung basal metabolic rate, pati na rin yung body temperature, pulse rate at blood pressure. Nagiging mas weak yung resistensya ng body kaya mas madaling kapitan ng infection at kapag tumagal pa, maglilid na talaga siya sa death during at dahil nga sa prolonged starvation.
So ayan, natapos na ang discussion about sa integration of metabolism and metabolism in starvation, yung iba't ibang concept and processes, and we hope na marami kayong naintindihan sa discussion at sana marami rin kayong maisagot sa quiz namin. So ayun na,